Snake is boring. You move around, you eat, you die, and then you do it all over again. But today, this all changes, because I'm about to break it completely by rebuilding it in 3 different genres. And for the last one, I might have done a bit too much. But starting simple, we have the simulator. The first step is to simply recreate the original Snake. And to my surprise, Snake is not really as simple as it looks. It took me some time to figure out how I could store all of the snake body parts and how to make the snake grow with every apple eaten. But I won't bore you with that. So, boom. Now we have Snake. But so far, it's just plain old boring Snake. So now it's time to break it. First, I'm adding a shop area with a nice little selling platform. This is as simple as it is ugly and basically just deletes your snake body on collision. But so far, this is just dumb to do as you don't gain shit from it. So I'm adding a currency system. It works by counting the amount of apples you eat and simply giving you that exact amount of money when you sell your body. Now we just have one problem. In Snake, the whole point is that the game gets harder the longer you are, because the risk of trapping yourself gets bigger and bigger. After a bit of balancing, I came up with this little equation which will calculate a multiplier based on your snake's length, which now makes it more rewarding to risk getting longer to gain more money. Now the immediate problem is just that the money is utterly useless. Inspired by the greatest game of all time, Roblox Pet Simulator, I'm making these new areas in different colors that have to be bought before they can be accessed. And in these areas, more apples spawn and the apples are more valuable. Secondly, I added 2 cool upgrades that can be bought for pretty hefty sums: the dash and the temporary invincibility. And with that, I want to move on because the next game I've planned has a bit more potential. The horror game. As last time, I'll start by remaking Snake, but this time in 3D. Why? I mean, I don't know. Making Snake in 3D was pretty much the same, except well harder and with more problems. But again, I won't bore you with that. So, boom. Now we have Snake. It is pretty standard in Snake that the snake moves on its own and you simply control its direction, which forces you to react fast and never gives you any real time to relax. But in this game I can't have that. If the player is too focused on not failing the basic Snake game, the scary horror stuff won't hit as hard. So in this game you move with each button press, instead to give you full control of the snake and remove the difficulty factor. Also, let's finally give this some atmosphere with some volumetric fog. But now, with that done, it is about due time I tell you my idea. The game will be called The Last Apple. It's just like the normal Snake, except someone is talking to you. And in the top of the screen is an apple counter. Everything seems normal as you gather up apples. The apple counter at the top says 6 out of 10, 7, 8, 9. Huh? No more apples. How could that be? The screen goes black. And now you are only ahead again, except you're bleeding everywhere. Something just ate you. Off you go again, but this time when you eat apples, you can feel the snake physically avoiding the apples because it's hurting. And next time you reach 9 apples, the same thing repeats. This goes on and on as you can feel the snake getting worse and worse. Then suddenly you reach 9 apples again, but this time the camera pans down and suddenly the game is in first person. And then... yeah, it's not the most beautiful thing I've ever made, but I kinda didn't plan this far. Anyway, luckily for us, the next game is about to be the best one yet by far, the RogueLike. For this one, I did my research thoroughly, and what I came to understand is that a good RogueLike needs 3 crucial things: procedural generation, high skill ceilings, and as many different power-ups as possible, which all work together some way or another. And based on this, I came up with the perfect idea. But first, procedural map generation. Should be pretty easy, right? So yeah, this shit is not easy. Inspired by the Binding of Isaac, it should work by starting in the center, checking each neighbor, randomly deciding which room to spawn, and keep going until it randomly stops or hits 15 rooms. Then it picks the furthest dead end as the boss room, chooses an item room and a shop room from the remaining ends, and finally tries to place a secret room next to the most neighbors. After making this, Unity decided to hit me with a mystery curse, where every time a vertical 1x2 room spawned, it threw an error that, as far as I know, literally shouldn't exist. So, because of missing cooperation, the vertical 1x2 room has been permanently terminated. Now that the map layout is generating correctly, it's time to generate the map. It looked, well, not great, but trust me, once I fixed the door positions and changed the room shapes, it works. Mostly.
Technically, the rooms are overlapped.
Shut up, Hubert, I'll get to that. Anyway, time to bring the snake back in. It works pretty much the same as in the first game, so adding it wasn't too painful. But now we hit a problem. In the simulator game, I could just slap colliders on the walls and instantly know when the snake bumped into something. But here, the rooms are all generated randomly, so I can't rely on neat pre-placed colliders. Instead, I have to do it the hard way, tracking the snake's position manually and constantly checking whether the head is inside a door. Now with that disgusting step out of the way, it's finally time for the real juice of this game. The enemies. The enemies are a complicated matter. To make this possible, I made this script which includes this data class which keeps track of each... yeah, let me not bore you with all that. So anyway, next I made a couple very simple circular enemy designs, including this one. So far, I only implemented one behavior. It just wanders in random directions without caring about you at all, and is really easy to dodge. Then I added simple shooting, and that is all for the enemies so far. Don't worry though, I'll get back to it later, but for now I'm moving on to the upgrades. It wouldn't be a roguelike without an unholy amount of power-ups. And in this game it's pretty obvious how the upgrades will work. They will of course be apples. When I fixed up the map generation, I made sure to include a shop room. And now it's time to get that shop opened. Whenever you enter a shop room, I want you to be presented with 3 different kinds of apples, which all do different stuff, and then you can eat the ones you have the money for. I started by designing the first 4 apples. The normal apple, which simply gives you +1 health and +1 length, and then 3 special ones. The first one being the dash apple. Pretty straightforward, just gives you the ability to move really fast. Second is the wait apple, which does the opposite and makes the player move really slow. And then finally, the best one in my opinion, the face apple. This one allows the player to become temporarily invincible to enemies and hurting yourself. After the apples, I set up the shop room itself with a different floor tile, 3 spots for apples, and no enemies. And that is it for the shop room for now. What I also added during the map generation is an item room. In this room, upon entry, I want the player to be presented with a single apple, which you can choose to eat or not to eat however you like. But contrary to the shop, this one will always be free and have equal bonus and drawback. Here, I really wanted power-ups that felt interesting and unique. And after a good while, I ended up designing 4 different apples. The least interesting is the glass apple, which doubles both the damage taken and the damage given. From here on, they get a bit more creative. And the first of these is the sharpshooter apple. This one halves an enemy speed on the first hit, but in exchange, if you ever miss a shot, your speed increases by 10% permanently. Next is the intangible apple. This one makes your body permanently untouchable, which means no enemy can damage it and you can move through it freely. The drawback is that your health is set to 1, which means any damage to the head of the snake means instant death. Finally, I made the fermented apple. Eating this apple will get you drunk, and as we all know, being drunk increases your luck in gambling. So of course, this gives your bullets a bit of aim assist. In exchange, the snake will every once in a while take a random step in the wrong direction, which is one heavy drawback. Finally, I set up the item room with a bit of a darker vibe than the others to emphasize how the apples aren't necessarily good to eat. Now with that done, the game feels unbalanced. It has a lot of cool abilities for the player, but the enemies still move like this. They pose the same threat as a wet paper bag, but luckily for us, I had completely forgotten about someone. This guy moves faster and longer than the first enemy. And then on top of that, he will always prefer the direction which puts him closest to the player. And that's basically all I have time for. Even though the first 2 games didn't take too long to make, this final one has been one hell of a time killer. And to not end up with an upload schedule like Cold Gaming, I'll sadly have to cut the video here. If this video gets 1 trillion likes, I'll come back and finish this roguelike as best as I can. Hopefully with multiple new enemies, apples, and of course adding bosses, new floors, and all that crap. Now if you have any ideas for cool power-ups, enemies, or anything else, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to implement as many ideas as possible for the next video. If you like this one, you might also like the one where we made Tetris in 3 different genres. Or if that's not for you, just hit subscribe and you won't miss out on the next video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.